Good evening, and here is my PowerPoint presentation on the Unabomber, which is Ted Kaczynski. So Ted Kaczynski was born on 5/22/42. He's a Caucasian male who worked as a professor briefly, and he is still alive. He was born in Evergreen Park. This is Evergreen, and this is a picture of he and his brother David in front of their family home. He then went to Cambridge, Massachusetts, to Harvard for undergrad. There is Cambridge, Harvard, and Cambridge and Harvard, and there it is on a map. Then he moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan to attend the University of Michigan for grad school. Here is Ann Arbor and Michigan. Then he went to the University of California, Berkeley for a teaching job where he taught briefly. He moved to Salt Lake City for a little while. And then he went to Lincoln, Montana, which is absolutely the middle of nowhere, very desolate. There's nothing going on in Lincoln, Montana. This cabin in the middle actually that was his cabin that he built with his brother David. It was a 10x14 cabin with no running water, no electricity, and especially no internet. No technology. So I found a great source called My Brother the Unabomber. I think it was from EBSCOhost, where David talks about Ted growing up, and he recounts a conversation he had with their mother, and he asked the mom, what's wrong with Ted? And she has this theory that Ted, when he got sick, he was 9 months old and he had a rash. That when they would have to hand him over to the hospital staff, that being ripped away from his parents' arms over and over as a 9-month-old was permanently scarring on Ted, which sounds pretty far-fetched, but if you think about the Harlow monkey experiment, it's not too far off. Physical affection is vital at a young age, and found another article that said that there's positive correlation between having a high IQ and having very vivid earlier first memories, which is pretty interesting because Ted had an IQ of 165. So what did he do? He sent bombs to people, like a lot of people. He paid very close attention to details. He covered his steps, and he sometimes left false clues to throw off authorities. He also used extremely accessible material, meaning that anybody in any profession and really anybody in the U.S. Could access these materials. They were pretty commonplace metals used in his bombs, so he was quite untraceable. With that being said, somehow the FBI had determined that he grew up in the Chicago area, and that he moved to California, and then that he moved to Salt Lake City, which was that was 100% accurate, so I'm not sure how they determined that. These were some of his victims. He started in the University of Illinois, Chicago. Security officer Terry Marker was injured. There were several bombs over the course of those 3 years. All injuries, no deaths here. American Airlines Flight 444, there were 12 passengers who were injured from smoke inhalation, but luckily no fatalities. Lots more injuries. And then on December 11th of 85, Rantech Computer Rentals, the store owner, Hugh Scruton, is killed by one of the bombs. There were a few more injuries at some universities, and then unfortunately 2 more fatalities. Thomas Mosser, there was a bomb sent to his home in New Jersey, in North Caldwell. And then Gilbert Murray in 1995, he was I believe the president of the California Forestry Association in Sacramento. He was killed as well. So that leaves us with a grand total of 3 deaths and 23 injuries. I think that after 95, after his third successful killing, he became a little confident in his work. So first and foremost, the FBI noted that there were no actual trends among his victims, but that the recipient tended to be either a university or an airline, which is how they coined the term UNABOMB, university and airline bomber. So most of the time, his victims were at a university or on an airline, but there was no trend among specific individuals, which obviously anybody can open a piece of mail, and anybody can stumble upon a bomb in a parking lot. So who's to say that there weren't specific targets? Moving on. So 95, Ted's feeling pretty cocky. He has now killed 3 people, and he has written this 35,000-word manifesto basically highlighting that technology is just the absolute downfall of society, and it's destroying us. And he says that you need to publish this or more people are going to die, and now people have died. And the FBI, not only did they not want more people to die, but they assumed that he could probably leave behind a vital clue, or that somebody would recognize his writing, and they did. David, his brother, his wife Linda, sits down with David and she says, Ted is the Unabomber. Your brother is the Unabomber, right? And of course, David, he can't come to terms with the fact that his brother could kill people, because he's very passive aggressive, and he says, you're right, that does sound like Ted, but Ted's just not the kind of person to carry out something as heinous as this. So he kind of went back and forth with it for a while before they finally went to the police and busted. The police raided Ted's home on April 3rd of 96. They found, I think it was 40,000 journal pages on bomb making. And they even found a live bomb in his cabin that was ready to be shipped out. He was sent to a supermax prison in Colorado, and then he was transferred in 2021 to a medical facility in North Carolina. So here's one of the journals with bomb making, with his evidence. This is all of the evidence that was obtained that day. This is the live bomb in the bottom, and of course that was the interior of the cabin. So let's name that theory. This is social control theory developed by Travis Hershey, 1935 to 2017. This is a macro level approach theory that depends on people anticipating the outcomes of their behavior. Hershey assumed that everyone is tempted by some form of deviance, but fear of ruining reputation is one's main obstacle. However, those who feel they have nothing left to lose are especially tempted. People with little power are at a much higher risk for deviance. It's comprised of 4 parts: attachment, opportunity, involvement, and belief. With attachment, there are strong social attachments that encourage conformity. Ted didn't have a strong relationship with his family or his friends. He was pretty much a hermit, and he didn't have his career at stake because he had saved up enough money to move and live off the land, essentially. So not only did he not have that strong family relationship, but now he no longer had a career that was on the line if he did commit such heinous acts and was caught. Then there's opportunity that says greater access to legitimate opportunity, greater advantages of conformity. So Ted had plenty of opportunity. Not sure what happened there. He had scholarships, full ride scholarships because of his high IQ. He had job opportunities. There wasn't, there wasn't a struggle to find work in teaching in the mid to late 60s. There wasn't really, there was a surplus of teaching jobs. So he had the opportunities. They were all there. Involvement states that extensive involvement in legitimate activities inhibits deviance. Ted did not have any kind of social activities that he partook in. He didn't have friends. He spent all of his time in the cabin. So naturally, he's concocting these ideas all day. He doesn't work. He's not doing anything. So he had no kind of social involvement. And then belief, a strong belief in conventional morality and respect for authority controls deviance. He didn't respect authority. He didn't trust the government. He thought that the society was failing, crumbling, and he didn't respect or trust the laws. So therefore, he wasn't obedient to the law. So here are some of my sources from Google Images. These are my remaining sources, and thank you so much for watching this presentation. I appreciate your attention.